How's it going, YouTube? We're bringing you guys another match from our most recent locals here at Steel Fox Games that I go to, one of the locals that I attend. It will be me on the left piloting a very different build of Yellow Hybrid. It's going to be Yellow-Blue Hybrid, and then on my opponent's side, he's going to be playing a little bit of a different version of Green, piloting Green-Blue Hybrid. So without further ado, let's go ahead, hop into the match. So here, as you'll see in a little bit, since I don't play the traditional eggs, I don't worry about hatching. I just go ahead, play a TK, grabbing a Zoe from the security. Pretty standard, nothing too crazy here. And my opponent goes ahead. Right here, it almost looks like they're playing a regular old blue hybrid, and then all of a sudden they drop down the Davis, revealing a Ancient Beetlemon and a Siakomon. So they're able to take two because Davis lets you grab a green and a purple Digimon, and then just playing another Siakomon, passing me over to my 3 memory. So here, he's already, I expect he'll see some blue cards. Maybe I have a blue card in hand. I go ahead and just hatch my egg. We'll go ahead and play a Zoe. I knew the Kazemon was in there from the previous search with the TK, so I felt like Zoe's pretty solid play just so I can get access to it. And then play down the Bokomon. He's going to go to 3 anyway, and it gives me a little bit of search. And here I'm only able to grab 1 target, and this pretty much gives away what I'm going on. The blue egg is a little bit of a throw-off, but seeing the Ice Wall and the Hammer Spark and stuff pretty much gives away what I got going on in this list. Here, my opponent with the 2 Siakomons, they just go ahead, swing in. The first one does live, gets a draw off, hits a Hammer Spark, passes him over to 1. And then since one of them is still alive, they just decide to go ahead, be a little bit aggressive, swing in with the second one, get another check. That time hitting the big ol' Susanomon, following it up with a Hammer Spark, and then just hard playing a Metal Kabuterimon. Looks like they are struggling on either the Tamer end or other pieces, since you know it kind of happens when you mix a couple of colors in. So here, we'll go ahead and Digivolve up into the Zephyrmon, staying at 4 because of the Bokomon effect to gain the 2 memory back, so essentially staying the same. Here we swing over the Siakomon. I'm half expecting, no matter what I pass my opponent to, that they're going to go ahead and probably go into something like a Rhino Kabuterimon, but I'm going to risk it here. Play another TK, just have another Tamer set up, search, grab another Zephyrmon, and then here, trying to think about what I'm going to do. They're already going to go up to 3, so what's not to say just go ahead, pass them over to 4, just play the TK Kari, hoping actually that they kind of really do attack through this Zephyrmon, because if they attack through the Zephyrmon, burn a security, and then burn me down, another one with Pierce, which you'll see me here, I think it's going to have piercing, so I go and trash 2, but we kind of adjust it, so no worries there. But here we reveal the first check, that one gets trashed. I reveal the second one, it's a Bokomon, and then I'm like, oh, sorry, nope, that's not really what was supposed to happen. We go ahead and fix it, shuffle it back up, it's an easy fix to the security, just kind of randomize it again. But now that I'm at lower security and they did pass me over to 3, I will go ahead, I think I catch it here in a second, and I'm going to go ahead and go up to 5 because of the TK Kari. So this gives me a pretty decent amount of memory to deal with, but I don't quite have, I think, the full line in hand. So we go ahead, Digivolve into the Kazemon, trying to go back and forth on what I'm going to do. I don't really, like I said, have any level 5 to go into, which is really unfortunate. So we go ahead, swing in with the Kazemon. We do end up hitting the Rhino Kabuterimon, and then here we're at 5 anyway because of the Bokomon not costing us the memory to Evo, and I just decided they're going to go to 3, might as well. Let's go ahead, drop the Wyvern's Breath, get rid of the big body on board, so we don't have to worry about that on the following turn if I swing in with a Bokomon and it happens to survive. So here, again, my opponent is struggling a little bit, so they just go ahead, hard play down the Blossomon, passing me over to 4, and then I'll gain another 2 because of the TK and Kari. So here we go ahead, hard slam down another Bokomon, getting a little bit of search, hoping to find a Jet Sylphimon. Unfortunately, we do see 2, but as long as we get 1, it really helps out. So here we go ahead and we decide to Digivolve the TK up. I believe maybe I have another TK or TK Kari in hand or something like that, just another Tamer to have to balance it back out. And with the Bokomons, it's really not as bad to be missing out on a Memory Tamer, but you do see the TK there in my hand. But here we go up into the Jet Sylphy, recover, we go into the Seraphimon, go back up to 4. This gives Seraphimon an extra security check, but unfortunately for us, Seraphimon being a small boy at only 10k, while he does get the advantage of the extra security check in the on Digivolve recover, he is only 10k, so he does die to that Argomon out of that check, and then we just go ahead, howling, freeze the Blossomon, passing our opponent back over to 3 memory. So here, our opponent goes ahead and just Digivolves straight up into the Ancient Beetlemon, passing me over to 2, and I don't gain the extra memory. So I go ahead, swing in here with the Vmon. Now, there is going to be kind of a weird play that I'm not... I have Lethal on board. I have the Hybrid in hand. We've seen it. You can see it right there. I have the Zephyrmon in hand. I don't know why I get super cautious right here. I go ahead and I play the Zoe. Again, in the moment, maybe my brain wasn't thinking that I had lethal on board. Maybe thinking that I had a couple more security than my opponent actually had. So we go ahead, Digivolve into the Kazemon. Go ahead, Digivolve. It's that way we get the buff from the Kazemon and have the Zoe. We play or Digivolve into the Rice Greymon. Here we just play down the TK. We're already going to go ahead and have the extra memory. I'm not really worried about the on-play effect. Swinging with the Pokemon, one dies, the other one doesn't. And then here we just go ahead, Wyvern's Breath, take out the guy. Again, I maybe noticed at this point that I did have lethal, but I was just being a little bit too cautious for something like Hammer Spark, but I don't even think that did anything. So I just go ahead and passing him over to 8 memory with only a Davis on board, and having not seen any blue hybrids for him to deal with to go on top of the Davis and continue any plays. I feel pretty safe here, just deciding to go ahead and clear the board, passing him to 8. I have 4 effective swings on board, or 5 I should say, because I have 2 tamers, because he can't really get rid of what's already on board. So we go ahead here and just pass him over. He goes ahead, plays the JP, starts evolving up, gets a little bit of search, just kind of thinking back and forth about what he's going to do. But at this point, I think it's pretty much game no matter what happens. But even though it's pretty much game, my opponent does go ahead and still thinks about what he's going to do, trying to do the most that he can do. So here he plays down the Mimi. Here he will suspend the Beetlemon Digisorption into the Blossomon. This puts a level 5 on board, so he's able to go ahead, raise up the Madoki via the effect. Even though the Madoki was just Digivolved, since it wasn't actually played, it was brought up from the raising area. It can in fact swing this turn. So it swings in, checks a TK Kari. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to get the extra memory off of it, but with Pokemon on the field and already having a memory setter, no matter what, I don't think at this point my opponent can quite clear the board or deal with a potential hybrid for game. So here they go ahead, 5 memory, Digivolve into the Ancient Boy. Go ahead, I'll hatch, and then I'll swing Vmon for game, wrapping up game 1. So hopping into game 2, you'll see my opponent here does end up mulliganing. That is not actually his original starting hand. He does tuck the first 5 to the bottom. We do allow mulligans here at the store. We also allow 5-card sideboards, but I personally haven't been sideboarding. Been playing a lot of online events that don't allow sideboards, so I personally don't worry about it, but a few people here do enjoy it. So just thought I'd go ahead and add that. But here we start off going first. My opponent does allow me to go first, which isn't too uncommon. Allow the setup so they can gain the extra memory. And here we just go ahead, Digivolve a V, Hard Slam the Zoe, grabbing a Jet Sylvie from the search. So my opponent goes up, sets up his own level 3 or a 3-cost tamer at this point, as well as Digivolve into the Siako and back, and then chokes me at 1, Digivolving into the Metal Kabuterimon. Doesn't really, unfortunately, get the search from something like a Beetlemon, but the choke is very beneficial for this matchup sometimes, especially early on when I don't have a memory setter. So here I don't have anything really any better to do. I have the Jet Sylphie, but I think I'm struggling on level 4s or the memory to do so. I don't really want to bait out evolving into a level 4, and he's got something like a Rhino Kabuteri or another Metal Kabuteri to suspend it and then go ahead into the Rhino and then go into the Ancient Beetlemon and just burn me for free security early on. So here my opponent does in fact go ahead and play down the Boko, get a little bit of search, does grab the Rhino or go up into the Rhino, choking me at 1 again. And here I don't really have anything better to do, so we go ahead, swing in with the Vmon, just get a little bit of draw, a little bit of chip damage. I'm not really worried about it dying, even if he does have the Rhino, since it won't have piercing, he doesn't have JP on field. And I just decided to go ahead and get rid of the Rhino with a Wyvern's Breath, just try to get the threat off the board. Not really much else I can do at this point. So here my opponent decides to go ahead, get rid of the Vmon. It makes sense. Siakomon being a 3K is always very crucial in a lot of these situations because of the fact that Siakomon is bigger than most of these 2K rookies. And then here dropping down a JP, evolving it, effectively gaining a memory because of the Pokemon and the reduction from JP, and unfortunately not being able to grab anything, revealing Ancient Beetlemon, which unfortunately Beetlemon is not able to grab because it is not a hybrid, and then a tamer such as Mimi that it's also not able to grab because it can only grab JP. So here my opponent goes ahead, drops down a Davis, and unfortunately again whiffs on the search, revealing 2 options and a tamer, not hitting the Digimon. But at this point, my opponent's just getting way far ahead. I may have all of my security, but being able to just make this really big board state and then not being able to do anything, with me not being able to do anything about it, is super oppressive. And then here dropping down a Pokemon, passing me over to 1, grabbing another hybrid. So here I'm at 1 memory. I just digivolve the Vmon. Again, with being able to choke me at 1 constantly keeps me from being able to do anything. Like if I would have had a TK at any point, I might have been able to help do something, maybe clear the board, maybe recover up a little bit. But here, my opponent is basically in OTK range. They have full board control, start swinging in Pokemon. Probably could have made the argument to digivolve one of your tamers in first instead, just so you gain that little bit extra 2 memory, just being a little bit safe. I don't have any board wipes in this list, something like a Shores, but just playing around it. But he still keeps the last Pokemon, so he can digivolve for free into the metal and then swing in Pokemon, taking me out OTK fashion. Not being able to do anything, keeping me memory choked, really was the downfall for that game. So on into the game 3. This is going to be a hand that I do keep. If you can't see here, I think I do have 1 or 2 of the Vmon. Any hand that pretty much has like a decent tamer, especially if it has a TK and a Vmon in this deck, I usually end up keeping, just because it's always pretty good to start off. So here my opponent does look like they do whiff a little bit, decide to hatch the Upa just so they can get the access to the Hammer Spark to go up to 1 and then play the Davis, trying not to give me too much. Personally, I don't think you really have to do that. It's not too bad, especially in this hybrid format. There is a lot of setup, so just passing me over to 4 isn't really the worst thing. But here I decide to take a little bit of advantage of it, just so I can have a little bit more cycle. Maybe my hand really ended up being as good as I wanted it to be. So I do in fact do the same exact play almost that he does. Hammer Spark up, going to 4, and then playing down the TK card just to digivolve it into a Kaze. Like I said, get a little bit of cycle. So here my opponent goes ahead, drops the Boko. You see they grab a JP and a level 4 hybrid. My guess is they don't really have the, even though it's good to have the Ancient, if you're missing the level 4 hybrid, then you might not be able to do anything. And then of course JP is always solid. So here we raise up. He passes me over to 3 with the JP. We swing in with the Vmon. Having jamming is really helpful, even though it doesn't really matter in that case. We hit the Thunder Laser, but we swing in with the Kazemon. Not super worried here if it dies. It doesn't look like I have the level 4 or the level 5 to go into. So here I'm kind of thinking back and forth about what I'm going to do. I know my opponent's already going to go up to 5, so here we drop down a Kazemon, just passing him over to their 3. So here, as we know my opponent from the previous search, they do have the Metal Kabuterimon in hand, so they're effectively going to gain a memory here because of Boko and JP reduction. That's why Bokomon's really strong in the any green hybrid list, whether you play Pure or Christmas or something like this. Just being able to gain that extra memory is always very solid, because then you can effectively go into your level 5 with the reduced cost for free. But they go ahead and digivolve up into the Rhino Kabuterimon as I expect, swinging through the Vmon. Unfortunately for them, not hitting a Ancient Beetle from earlier and only being able to grab that level 4 is gonna unfortunately make it so that this Hammer Spark is live. They don't get the trash from the effect, but they do get the Pierce check. And then here my opponent's trying to think about back and forth what they're gonna do. They don't really want to pass me to too much, so they go ahead and drop a JP, setting up for following turns if I can't really deal with what he's got on the board. So you see I'm kind of thinking about what I'm going to do. You see I have the Howling Hand, so I am going to be able to freeze this Rhino Kabuterimon, but I'm trying to figure out the best time to do it. There is going to be a little bit of a cut here. We had a little bit of issue with my phone stopping the recording. All that you really miss here is I swing it with 2 Kazemons. The first one lives, I believe, to an option or something out of security, and then the second one does in fact die to a Blossomon. As you can see, the new Blossomon in my opponent's trash. So sorry about that. But here we do go ahead, use the Howling to freeze the Rhino Kabuterimon, just so we don't have to worry about it if he does in fact end up finding the Ancient. The last thing I want to do is just go ahead and get that free burn. So here my opponent drops down another Boko on their turn. They go to grab the level 4 hybrid initially, but then they remember that Bokomon is able to grab 10 warrior cards, unlike a lot of the other searchers that hybrid decks has. So here they switch it up, go ahead and take the 10 warriors. Unfortunately not able to cheat it out because the Rhino Beetlemon is suspended, but they are able to go ahead and utilize the double Bokomon into the JP to still get a little bit more cycle here, being able to go back up to 3. If they have another Rhino Kabuterimon, which in fact they do, they're able to go ahead, put me to go up into 1. Here they're just trying to remember what they can and can't swing with, so they move the other Pokemon out the way, swinging in with the first Pokemon that can attack, hitting a TK card, which is always very strong, and then go ahead digivolving in as they swing in with the Ancient, trashing a Rise, hitting a TK effect, making me take the Bokomon, but unfortunately for my opponent, no way to stop it to keep the turn on their side. So here I go ahead, put me up to 5. I'm at no security, but I have enough checks, so we swing in with the Vmon, checking the last security, and I do in fact have the hybrid for game. Well, all right, everyone, that's going to be the match that I wanted to show off this game because it was really interesting. This yellow-blue hybrid list that I've been playing has been super, super fun to play with, and my opponent also playing a little bit of a different green hybrid list, one that's not pure or Christmas, so I felt like it was good to show off. He has been having some good success with it, so I thought I'd go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a show. But other than that, if you did enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We will have more gameplay videos and stuff like that coming out. Leave any comments down below if you have any questions. I should have a deck profile up for my version of this yellow-blue list up in a little bit, so keep tuned to the channel for that. But until next time, guys, have a good one.